Hello, this is Astro Breeze, and we are in our astrology study group and continuing a little bit more with Venus. Probably finish up on that, but we could do this with all the planets, and we probably will over time. But today we're going to look a little bit more at Venus in this light, and you should be able to see the screen of something called traditional essential dignities and debilities. Well, basically, this is where the light, sun, moon, and the planets have their say. This is classical astrology, which I follow. I think it works best. Although we could designate some things to some of the outer planets, and we do, and I do talk about them, but this just takes in account the sun, the moon, and the the immediate planets, the five planets before you get to past the asteroid belt. So we have Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. And we stop there. So if you look down the rulership column, and I'm just going to run through these, all of them real quick, and then we'll zero in on Venus today. So you'll see the sun, the ruler of the sun is Leo, the ruler of the moon is Cancer. The sign that rules, I should say the planet Mercury, we can go say it either way. Gemini and Virgo is ruled by Mercury, or Mercury rules Gemini and Virgo. So there's also a primary kind of and a secondary rulership here. And Gemini would be the primary and Virgo would be the secondary. But also Virgo, Mercury is also exalted in Virgo. So it's not like it gets second place. So Venus rulership, the main ruler is Taurus and the secondary is Libra. Mars, this isn't totally correct, this chart. It should have, well, all right, we'll leave it this way. Aries, rulership Aries, it should be a Scorpio too. What do we have over there? Anyway, Jupiter, Sagittarius, Pisces, and Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. So just imagine on Mars that it says Aries and Scorpio, and I'll show you another picture in a minute. Now you'll notice that all of the rulers, the rulership, the rulers, whatever, if we flip over and look at the detriment column, the detriment is opposite of the rulership. So if Leo, the sun rules Leo, or Leo is, the ruler of the sun, or when the sun is in Leo, it's very strong. You could say all those variations. But when the sun is in the opposite sign of Leo, which is Aquarius, it's what's called its detriment. Same with the moon. The moon's ruler is Cancer, and the sign that is opposite of Cancer is Capricorn. So the moon is at its detriment in Capricorn. So rulership, you think of maybe up and detriment, bottom. Okay, it's kind of how I think about it. We'll go into this a little bit further though. And you'll see that each of the planets should have two rulers and two detriments. And I'll show you a cool picture of this in just a second. But you'll just look down and you'll see those all the way down that detriment column. Okay, now we'll go back one to the exaltation column. And the exaltation is a new place. It's where each of the planets, or the sun and the moon, I'm just going to say planets, and that will mean that is where they feel they're an honored guest. When they're not at home, this is the next best place, but they get the master bed and they get the royal treatment, break out the good brandy and whatever. So if the sun is not in its home of Leo, its next best place would be to be in Aries' house. It feels pretty comfortable there. They're both outward masculine signs. They're both on the lower hemisphere. There's things in common. And let's look at Venus. The Venus is exalted in Pisces, and we'll go through these in just a minute, what this all means, but I just want to point this out, this chart. So Venus is exalted in Pisces. If Venus is not in Libra, I'm sorry, in Taurus or Libra, then it wants to be in Pisces. Okay, an opposite of the exaltation will be the fall, and that will be the opposite of that sign. So you can see the sun is is exalted in Aries. So we know that Libra is opposite of Aries. So that's where we would expect to find the sun in its fall. There's reasons for all this. So um, we'll go through that another time. And if we look down to Venus, we'll see that it's, Virgo is opposite of Pisces. So what does that mean? It means that Venus is uncomfortable in its fall. It feels awkward. It's, nothing to do with these signs. Like we think of Taurus, Venus is Taurus. Taurus is feminine, right? It's earthy. Libra is masculine and it's air. And then Virgo is, feminine and it's earthy. So it's like not the best place that, it doesn't mind the earthy part, but it's not like the best place. The best place that Venus would really want to be is in Taurus, where it is just hyper feminine. It's the goddess. And then the next best place would be, Libra, and then it's exalted in Pisces. Some people argue that that's a really nice place too. It sometimes could vie Taurus, but if we understand what that energy is all about, we'll see that it's true. Okay, so opposite of that is Virgo. All right, so I just wanted you to see that. Now I want to see, stop sharing that one. Let's give you a new share. Now, if we go to Google Images, go to Google if you want, type in images, and then once the images come up, I just typed in dignities of Venus. And it's bringing me up all these different tables. And the one that I grabbed was over here. You see the tables, that's the one we were just looking at. But let's look at this one. And it'll come up over here on the right side. I just clicked on this one here from the tarot lady. And it's right over here. And she's got all the planets in there. There we go. Yep. And this is a good one here, as far as I can tell. I didn't scrutinize it totally. But you can click that off. And then all of these are different dignities, different ways you can look at this. I think we've looked at some of this before. Oops, shoot, I didn't want to go to their website. Go back over here. Okay. Anyway, if you just click on it once, this brings up, let's see, what is this one? This one's Vedic. We're not interested in that right now. Here we go. There's another one. This one's got a lot more things on it. They give you the the domicile, the exaltation, detriment, fall, triplicities, the terms, the face. Don't worry about all that. But those are just other points. You can look more at these. There's one I want to show you that's got a good picture on it. If not, I'll have to get it another way. Oh, darn. Thought it was in here. No. Anyway, if you go here, you can just, this is where you can find a lot of things. When you go here. Oh, darn. I thought I saved that. I guess I didn't. Okay. So let's start into this. Let's see, can we look at this here? Is this one? No, that won't confuse everybody. Okay. Actually, I've got another interesting one to share with you. Let's do that real quick. Let's do this one. Okay, this is another interesting wheel where it placed them all just a little bit differently. And we can look at each sign, and then you can see, let's look at Taurus, and we can kind of go on all of these. So we see the outer one, it says it's rulership right here. And then it's also anything that is in here. It's like you could see the moon is exalted in Taurus. This is the sign Taurus here. It has a sign, tells you it's fixed and it's Earth. So it tells you a few things here. And then we would know that if Venus rules here, and then you look over here, it says rules in Libra as well. So we can look at this. I'll leave this up for you to look at while I go through a few things for you. Oh, but I do want to highlight, let me share one more thing and we'll come back to this. What we're going to read, I want to read you something first today. Can get to it. Let's see. Stop share. Let's see. I want to give you something else. Bear with me. Okay. too many things to click. Okay, now let's go back over here. Thought I had it all up. Okay, here we go. We're going to look at this book today. We looked at it last week when we talked about Venus. We read from a lot of different texts, but I can't recommend this book enough. It is it's like the best astrology book, and it's not easy by no means. Don't let that name fool you. It's multi-level, it's easy in such that he explains it so well, but it's layered of information. Once you get the first layer, you can read it several more times and pick up way more than you thought. I mean, all books are kind of like that, but this one is very much so. But it's got little exercises and things to help you in your learning. It's very well done. But anyway, I'm going to be reading something from here about Venus because it's very good. And let me go back to our wheel while we're looking at it. Okay, so according to Dusty, and I love some of the way he writes. It's just so funny. Makes light of a lot of the things that we're going through so heavily. It just keeps you making light of it and helping you to trust your own wisdom, not what's written in books. But I'm going to read from his book because he emphasized that, which is kind of funny. There's just some good ways he put some things. So I want to read a little bit about Venus. Venus loves opulence, luxury, pleasure, sense-oriented delights, and beauty. As the avatar of Aphrodite, Venus, the planet, is consumed with a hunger for personal pleasure, and so in Taurus she reigns supreme. In Scorpio, her detriment, she has moved out of her home and is now under the sadistic influence of Mars. Here she turns dark, very dark, and becomes highly sexual. But sexuality is really just a form of deep intimacy, trusting another, engaging another directly, and usually discreetly on an emotional level. Venus in Taurus is no longer about her pleasure, but her partner's pleasure. As a feminine sign, Scorpio is still a vacuum, but one with teeth and claws. Scorpio is the thorn of the rose, which grows downward toward the root instead of upwards toward the bloom. The thorns of a rose are not there to prevent you from plucking the flower, but instead to prevent you from escaping once you have taken the flower out as your own. Venus in Scorpio loses much of its indulgent sensuality, becoming instead an intoxicating wine that drugs the other into a stupor that is possessive as it is deadly. He writes so well. Venus is still Venus, but instead of bringing pleasure to the self through the senses, she now focuses on controlling others as puppets through highly specific types of sensual delight. Venus in Aries, which is also the detriment because it's opposite of Libra, remember, is a completely different animal. This is a especially difficult placement for Venus. Venus is meant to be seductive, an alluring primal force that draws her prey to her. In Taurus, Venus's prime rulership is one of the supreme forces of nature, a primal goddess, devastating all who oppose her through animal magnetism, hyperfemininity, and her legendary stubbornness. In her weaker sign, Libra, the secondary rulership, she must be proactive, engaging, charming, and fashionable to lay waste to anyone foolish enough to disagree with her. But she is still more than a match for all but the most dominant universal forces. As challenging as it is for Venus to put on overalls and perform physical labor, Libra is still in her domain. It is just her masculine nature. I think that's so important to understand that, because in Taurus, it's way more the feminine side of that Venusian rule, influence. And I didn't understand that for the longest time. And things start to wear at you, but then sometimes you read something and it's like, oh yeah, that you hear a few words, it just really pops out. Okay, in Pisces. Okay, so placing Venus in its sign of exaltation, which is Pisces, it makes her the prototypical fairy tale princess of countless stories, seemingly weak and easily abused, and always beset upon by dragons or stern fathers intent on locking her away in high towers. But notice how the victim of the story, Venus, in Pisces is in fact the catalyst for the hero to rise beyond mediocrity and become something more than he ever could without such motivations. Let us count the male's motivations here. Female, beautiful, gracious, princess, and this is the most treacherous and deadly of all, in need of rescuing. It is this final motivation that makes the dashing prince completely lose his mind, abandoning all other loves or decisions, and makes this his life quest, his mission. Okay, so he's just like gone off. I hope you get the idea of this Venus in Pisces. it's it's such a strong place. It's so dissolving and elusive. It's takes something and it just wants to move it apart. So it's sensual in one way. It's all of the self. It's on that left side of the chart where it has, just to do with itself. So this is where it gets disembodied, or it says, this is my destiny here in life. I'm going to go get this, you know. So Venus in Pisces, it clouds all logic with a subtle wink or a hint of a smile. And I like how he says here, he goes, this is the force of nature unto itself. Venus is already a goddess, and she's now distilled into pure sugar. Venus in Pisces. Okay, so think of that, how hedonistic it would be, the goddess, being in Taurus. But now it's pure sugar in when it's there. It's such like a hopium place, I think. That's maybe a good way to say that. And then the last one, Venus in Virgo, is in its fall. It's like, unfortunately, he continues, unfortunately, such power sucks all of the oxygen out of the room, leaving poor Venus in Virgo vastly underappreciated. Located, let's see, it's on the right hemisphere. Virgo is social, friendly, helpful, servile, and polite. All of these should be fine qualities for hyperfeminine Venus, but Venus is a planet of pleasure, seduction, fantasy, and illusion. Venus is how we draw others into our world and web. She does not serve. Virgos do more service. Virgo is the energy of critical thought, analysis, and hard reality. Virgo is obsessively preparing for Venus's grand entrance, into the upper hemisphere. Virgo is the feminine side of Mercury, and so it's a little bit fussy. It's okay. Venus really hates being here. She is not unsexy. She just has to work for attention instead of lounging around in a tower where everyone can see her plate. Okay. I hope you get a little bit of a personal feeling of what this is all about. So we get that. And one thing that Dusty White in that book points out is he really drills in the energies, things that we've taken for granted, the lower hemisphere, the upper hemisphere, left hemisphere, right hemisphere, and drills those things in deeper. It's very worth the book. He talks about all of the different sectors, and he dissects them out very meticulously. So I have to say, very meticulously. So when you think of Venus, what we're thinking about is two things. We're thinking about the first one being, in Taurus here. It's, first of all, it's on the left side of the chart. You should know that's more about the self. It's underneath, it's on the bottom, which is more hidden or quiet. It's not out so much in the open. It wants to be more, at home, have its senses tended to. Doesn't want to move again. It's just sitting him. I'm fine here now. Everything's coming here and it's fine. When it goes into Libra, it switches. It goes kind of into its masculine mode. It has to deal with others because it's now in the 7th house and on the right side of the chart and above the line, above the horizon. So it's, it's changed into its masculine sign. What else? Okay, so you have those two spots there, ruled by Venus. And we said that Venus is exalted. Okay, so get that too. So you're thinking 2nd house, 7th house. Now, the opposite of the 2nd house is the 8th house, right? So that's one place where Venus does not like to be. Being in here under the, it's one of the detriment places. Does not like to be into that spot. And then the other side of her, the masculine side of is Libra, and its opposite is Aries. So we have right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 spots, houses that can influence where your Venus is. So say you have Venus in Taurus, where it's rules, but what if it's in the first house of Aries? It's going to weaken it a little bit, or make it more aggressive or less patient or not as sensual. You can go either way with that. What if we had, Venus and Taurus, but what if it were in the eighth house of Scorpio? It may, that person may like sex more. It may have more deeper, bonds on that level, not be so about the self, might be more interested in the partnership. There's lots of different combinations of that, but I just want to point out that those, so far, 4 houses would influence where your Venus is in your chart. Now we said that, let's see, okay, so then we have those two, right? And then those two. So now we have where Venus is exalted, and it's right here. It's over on the 12th house. So now we have these three houses kind of occupied with Venus dignities, let's put it that way. And then, that's where it's exalted, and it's still, you think about it, it's still on the me side of the chart, the selfish or the more self-oriented part of the chart on the left side. That's where, again, where it's in Pisces, it could just fuzz out. It's just expand. It's just, oh, my princess, my underlined, my whatever it is. Opposite of that then would be Virgo. And then we have, again, these 3 signs ruled, or I should say, associated with Venus's dignities. So over here in Virgo, we already talked about that. It's on the right side, others, but it's underneath, so it's not like so much look at me. But now we have 6 houses that could influence yours, where yours is in. If you don't have Venus in anything, but it's in one of those houses, it could, again, further modify its strength or how loud or not it is. So again, let's just give a few scenarios. What if you have Venus in Scorpio, but let's put it in the 7th house. So we've taken it, where it's, Venus is in a place where it doesn't like to be. It's in its detriment, in that sign, but we're putting it in a house that Venus rules. So in this way, we're probably going to make the partnerships maybe not as well. Maybe we could say this: there will definitely be much more emphasis with partners and partnerships when we have Venus there. There may be a lot more entanglement with the other person in partnerships with Venus there. It may not necessarily be so much better. I mean, it just depends. But it could make it not as, how can I say it? It would offset it a little bit, definitely, by having it in that, in that outward masculine house that is one of its places where it likes to rule. I hope that makes sense. I'll go through a few more of these. All right, what if we had, let's do it this way. What if we had Venus in Virgo in the 12th house? So it's going to be in its exalted house, but it's in its fall. It's not in a comfortable place, but it's in a comfortable house. Well, it's kind of like, how do I say this? Well, I won't. That might be too rude. It's just, it's just like, it's like bad kid makes good, kind of. It's like the kid that got laughed at and ridiculed in high school ended up doing really well. It's still that kid, but they've done really well. Okay. So how about the other way around? Well, let me go into that a little bit. It would, we have Venus in Virgo, so we would still have that kind of likes to be about numbers or nitpick, but it might like to do it in a nicer environment. It's like that person maybe be might be into numbers or accounting, but their space that they're in has to be ethereal or somehow exalted. Their workplace may have to be really really well, or just really nice, really mellow, really conducive. Maybe, have red light in the windows and a grounding pad and, fresh water and, a little uh, waterfall device or something like that. Okay, let's flip it around now. What if we had Venus in Virgo? I'm sorry, Venus in Pisces. So it's in the sign of its exaltation, where it's feeling like it has to just go beyond. It's got a storybook um, way about it, about life. And it's in a Virgo sixth house. It's in the house, it's below the horizon. It's, other people oriented now. It's, um, it's still a feminine house, but it's more about taking care of stuff and people and not itself. So it's a little a little awkward. So it doesn't feel quite comfortable maybe to be in its expanded place because it's a little jumpy. There's other people, saying, "Are you sure that's the princess? Are you sure that's the one? You don't want to be here?" And it's like just it's not. It can't just relax out into that. So those are some ways that we have to just kind of think about this when you go looking for this in your chart. And we've looked at it in a few different ways. We've looked at it in all, you comb it over so many different ways. What sign is it in? Where is it? Is it a masculine sign that it's in? It's a feminine sign that it's in. Is it, we looked at all these places of where Venus could be: above the horizon, below the horizon, on the left side, the right side, in one of the quadrants. Is it in a certain element? But now we're blending in this little bit more stuff. It's like putting the icing on the cake, the cherry on top. So again, when you're looking at this, we're looking, training yourself to be an astrologer or to understand astrology is really, really high minded. It's, one of those things that are all brain, full brain. Music is another one, learning languages is another one, but there's so many levels and so many things that you have to keep in your mind when you're looking at this. It's like you have to look at 10 things at a time. So I'm just going to flip over to the chart and we'll just look at today's chart, and we'll keep some of this in mind just because I want to give you something else to look at. And we'll put a few more practical spins and be done for today. Let's go look at the chart. Just a chart. Let's just imagine whoever this is. Okay, this is Baby Og. Baby Og. All right, Baby Og has Venus. Yeah, I guess we can leave it just like that for you. Okay, Baby Og has Venus in Leo, and it's in the eighth house. We're gonna just make this up. Well, Venus in Leo is really, there's nothing there as far as any of the essential dignities, right? It's there. It's not in a rulership, which would mean it's not in Taurus or God, I'm blanking out now, or Libra. It's not in its detriment, which that's not in Scorpio or Aries. It's not in its exaltation of Pisces, and it's not in its fall of Virgo. So don't have really any of its dignities to make it extra strong or extra weak. It's just kind of average here. But it's in Leo, not its favorite place, but at least it gets attention, right? We got to think a little bit about this. At least it's got that Leo on attention. Leo is, getting energy. It's from the heart. At least Venus is getting some attention here, and it's in the eighth house. Well, that's a place where it is not real comfortable. It's in the house of Scorpio. It's in the house of a detriment. of opposite of where the house that it likes to be in. So it's a little like, what would you think? It would be maybe a little bit of a showy kind of something in front of the partners, or maybe trying to persuade the partners through how she looks, or, you know, see what I have, but maybe being a bit of a diva, kind of trying to mush the energy of look at me, Leo, Venus, with that scorpionic undertone. So just maybe a little bit of a funniness on that one there. Um, it would be, it's in a masculine sign, kind of further weakens it. It's in the other's side, it further weakens it. It kind of, other than being in Libra, I think it would really like to be in the, the by itself, like kind of like in the me side. So that further kind of weakens it. So maybe it's either not working so much, or it's a bit of a problem. What else did we notice here? It's trying to remember our list of stuff. It's in the upper horizon, which is more about look at Venus, rather than maybe pay her, give her bonbons and sweetness. So it's slightly uncomfortable there. So it could be worse, but it's like that's what it is. It's, you kind of have to evaluate that, and then what aspects is it making? Is it making anything? Oh, I see a square. um I don't know why these lines aren't showing up, but it's gonna, oh, probably because it's just finished. I think I have them applying. That's what I do. They're set to apply. As soon as they hit, then they go away. See, we have a 15-degree square over to Jupiter down here. If I go back a day, it'll be there. There it is. See? I'm just going to do that just so we can see it for a second. So Venus is making a square over to Jupiter. So that makes like some kind of a large, it's being squared now. So it's got to be restricted. So we got this person, Baby Og, a restricted look at me Venus in a sign. In an area, in a place that is, there's a lot of energy there. It's near the sun. So there's going to be something to do with depth, sex, taxes, behind the scenes, slightly showy, uncomfortable with this Venus placement. I just wanted to give you just a couple seconds to kind of stare at that. So this is really good to look at yourself, and then you start looking at others, and you can look at it that way. We got to comb it several ways to kind of get the best interpretation, remember. So if we're looking at this one, this Venus is not the strongest part of maybe this person, because it's not how it wants to be. It's kind of further away from being in its space and place, and being a comfortable space and place. Maybe this person isn't very Venusian. They may not be very good looking. They may not have a lot of attention on that, except for the Leo part. See, that's kind of like the one part. Maybe they're not as good looking as they think they are, or something like that. See, because we got that Leo there, but we have all these kind of yucky points against the Venus. Now, what if we had it? Oh, I can't move it too much. But what if we had the same Venus in the seventh house? If it were, just imagine that we're back a little bit in the seventh house. Now that might make it a little bit stronger, because then it's in a better placement. Better yet, what if it were in the second house? That would be way stronger, because then that little bit of look at me Leo would maybe to get attention, and servants bringing her things, serve her. But at least it's in a fixed sign that kind of would sort of get along. It's a fixed sign in the fixed house if it were in the second house. What if we put that in, and what if we just imagine that it were in the 12th house? I guess we could do that. No, that's right. I'll just leave it. Just imagine the Venus in the 12th house there. So it's got the Leo. It's then would they be over in the 12th house? So at least it may be. But then we have the sun here with Baby Og, because we're looking at trying to move these around and what we'd have. So that Venus would still be maybe getting more attention, would be able to might be more expanded. See, there's a little bit of difference of something in that's if it were in Pisces as opposed to being in Pisces house. When something is in the house, there's more action in life. That's an area of life. So this person, Baby Og here, has a lot of, Sun and Venus activity in its eighth house. I think we can maybe do this. No, it's not going to do it. It's not going to move this for me. That's all right. Okay, but you get the idea. So check this out with yours. Grab your chart, grab your friend's chart, your neighbor's chart, your relative's chart, and just start looking at this and comb over that and see how they are. See how those energies come out. With what they like, they want, they possess, they draw to them, and yeah, I think that's all I got about that. So you got those dignities with all of your other information about that, and you're ready to go. All right, I think that's it for today. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you all next week. Bye for now.